Hi, happy Wednesday. I apologize for not physically being in class, but I figured I'd still hop on here and do a little synopsis of what I would have said had I been there. Um, so I talked to Dr. Shara about what I should do going into this second rough draft. And she said whenever I was submitting my samples, she did a thorough read through of all my math. So she feels pretty confident that all of that is okay right now. Again, she's going to do a more thorough read through after this draft and just make sure everything looks okay. But for the most part, for this second rough draft, I focused on some grammar stuff. And like I said last class, kind of fixing up some of my sentences and varying the verbs. So I ended up reading through everything. And again, like I said, I changed some of the verbs to make it flow a little bit better. And I also, let's see what else. Oh, whenever I was reading through it, I noticed I did this a lot. And I hate that I did this a lot. I can't believe that. But I used a lot of like I started most of my sentences saying we can do this or we can find, we can prove. I had a lot of sentences with can in it, and I didn't like that at all. So most of those sentences I ended up just taking out the can part and said we find that, we will, or we prove that. And I feel like that helps my paper flow a little bit better, which is good. Let's see, what else did I do? I included like a couple more details in some spots, particularly down here. Where am I going? Oh, specifically in this section, I just included a little for example part here. I didn't make it an actual example because it's really brief. And it kind of just displays that if we add another square root, you could still get a dimension of 1. It's not always going to bump up to 2. And so for this example, I just have the square root of 6 is in the rationals adjoin square root of 2, adjoin square root of 3, but it does not change that dimension. So I feel like including that example there kind of helped clarify my point. So again, just adding in a couple of details here and there. And then the biggest thing that I did for this rough draft was I completely restructured my fourth section. So, and I got a couple comments about this, about how I had a theorem and then I had some notes in between before my proof. And so I agree that looked a little bit messy. So I decided to change that. For the most part on this one, I had a couple notes in between the theorem and the proof, and I actually just kind of combined that into the theorem. So instead of saying for the theorem, I originally had doubling the cube is impossible. I didn't really like that, just having that one sentence there. So I included the little details I had below, and I actually used that in my theorem. So I used more specifics, and I said, given all of this, blah, 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 this is impossible. So basically restating using more details that doubling the cube is impossible. And then I went straight into my proof there. And then when it comes to the trisecting the angle part, I had a huge chunk of information in between my theorem and my proof. And again, that looked crazy messy. So I actually ended up taking that information and turning it into a lemma. And then I proved that. And then I just, again, kind of combined information here to create this theorem, basically stating that trisecting an angle is impossible. And I just referenced that lemma here. And so it looks a lot nicer, which I like a lot. But that was the main thing that I changed about this draft. Everything else is pretty much the same. Again, I'm going to kind of wait to hear back from Dr. Shara and my peer reviewer for this draft to see what else I can change going towards that next draft. Personally, I do want to still kind of work on my introduction and conclusion, kind of, again, maybe fixing some of the sentence structure, how some of the sentences are worded, maybe including more detail and just making it sound more professional. Because whenever I read it, I'm like, oh, this is very bland. Like, I wish I could do a lot more to it. So I think going towards the third rough draft, I'm probably going to focus on doing that, fixing that. And again, just waiting to hear back from Dr. Shara and my peer reviewer on what else I can change for that. As for other updates, I have started thinking about what I want to do for my slides. So that's good. I I have a problem with including a ton of information, way too much information, more than I need to. So I've started thinking about how I can kind of cut down my paper and what I need to include in my slides and what I can just say out loud. So I have started thinking about that. And one more thing I actually just remembered on, let's see, one of these pages, I wanted to point out real quick. Oh, this little square here. It's not, I mean, I wish it was on this page right here. So I need to figure out if I can cut some stuff down here so that it bumps back up to this page, or if there's another suggestion anyone has on how to get that up there, just because that doesn't look very nice right there. But I think that's everything I had. Hope that everybody has a great rest of your week.